Picture this. It's a drizzly Saturday afternoon in a church hall that smells faintly of instant coffee and damp coats. Folding tables have been pushed together, extension leads snake across the floor, and there's a gentle hum of conversation that's half workshop, half neighborhood gossip. At one table, someone's coaxing a stubborn toaster back from the dead. At another, a teenager is learning how to stitch a torn backpack while their mom watches, slightly astonished, as if witnessing a minor miracle. This is a repair cafe. Not a cafe in the cappuccino and cake sense, though you'll often get a biscuit if you're lucky, but a pop-up place where volunteers help you fix broken household items, electronics, clothing, bikes, lamps, sometimes even small furniture. You bring the sad, wonky object that's been living in a cupboard to sort out one day. And you leave with either a working item or, at the very least, a better understanding of what went wrong. Repair cafes began in the Netherlands in the late 2000s, but the idea has traveled rather well. Across the UK, you'll find them in village halls, libraries, community centers, even museums. Some are monthly, some are weekly, and some appear whenever a group of enthusiasts can wrangle a room booking and a kettle. They're not flashy. They don't need to be. Their charm is precisely in their ordinariness. What's quietly radical about them is that they disrupt a habit we've normalized, the assumption that broken equals bin. Most of us have internalized a sort of consumer fatalism. The headphones crackle, the Hoover makes a suspicious noise, the zip goes on the coat, and we sigh as if the laws of nature have spoken. Fair enough, we think. It had a good run. Then we buy a new one. But here's the thing. That good run is often shorter than it ought to be. Not because we're careless, but because so many products are designed in ways that make repair awkward, expensive, or downright impossible. Screws are replaced with glue. Parts are proprietary. Manuals are hidden. And so the cost of professional repair can quickly exceed the cost of replacement, which makes the decision feel obvious, even if it leaves a slightly sour taste. Repair cafes don't solve the whole problem, but they do something important. They make repair visible again. They turn it into an activity, a social event, and, crucially, a learnable skill. And that shift, from private frustration to shared problem solving, is where the magic happens. Let's talk about what you actually see at a repair cafe. If you were to wander in, you'd probably encounter 3 broad zones. First, electronics. Here you'll find people with soldering irons, multimeters, and the sort of calm patience that suggests they've spent a lifetime dealing with fiddly screws. Items range from the mundane to the oddly sentimental. A bedside radio that belonged to someone's dad, a lava lamp that simply must be saved, a bread maker that refuses to knead. Second, textiles. This area often looks deceptively simple. A sewing machine, a few needles, thread spools, patches. Yet it's astonishing how many things can be rescued with nothing more than a properly sewn seam, a replaced button, or a reinforced tear. And there's something rather grounding about watching someone mend a garment while chatting about the weather. Third, bikes and small mechanics. A wobbly wheel, a squeaky chain, brakes that have seen better days. Someone will inevitably say, "Blimey, when was the last time this had a service?" And everyone will laugh, because we've all been there. You might imagine repair cafes as places for the ultra-eco-conscious, the sort of people who always remember their reusable containers and can recite the recycling guidelines from memory. And yes, some visitors are keen on sustainability, but plenty aren't. They come because money's tight, because they hate waste, or simply because it's annoying to throw something away that ought to work. In other words, repair cafes attract normal people with normal lives. Now, why do these places matter beyond the feel-good atmosphere and the saved gadgets? For one, they change the economics of repair. Not by making professional repair cheaper, but by lowering the barrier to entry for basic fixes. When a volunteer shows you how to replace a kettle switch or stitch a torn lining, you gain confidence. Next time, you might try it yourself. Over time, that confidence spreads through a household. then a neighborhood. They also rebuild a kind of practical literacy that many of us have lost. If you ask someone to describe how a toaster works, they'll probably say, electricity goes in, toast comes out, which is technically not wrong, but it's not exactly enlightening. At a repair cafe, you start noticing components, heating elements, thermostats, springs, contacts. You begin to see objects as systems rather than sealed mysteries. And this is where it gets properly interesting. Repair is not just a technical act, it's a cultural one. In post-war Britain, make do and mend wasn't a quaint slogan, it was a necessity. Clothes were patched, furniture was kept going, and people knew how to fix things because they had to. Over the decades, as mass production made goods cheaper and advertising made newness glamorous, that mindset faded. Convenience became king. Repair cafes are not about turning back the clock or romanticizing hardship. Nobody is suggesting we should all live like it's 1942, thank you very much. What they're doing is reintroducing an option that's been squeezed out. The option to maintain, to care for objects, and to refuse the idea that everything is disposable. There's also a psychological element, though not in the trendy self-help sense. It's more straightforward than that. Fixing something gives you a sense of agency. It's the feeling of, I'm not at the mercy of this thing. When a lamp flickers back to life after a loose wire is tightened, it's hard not to feel a small surge of triumph. People often grin like they've just won a prize. But repair cafes are not utopias. They run into the same messy constraints as everything else. The biggest limitation is time. Volunteers can't spend 3 hours diagnosing a complicated fault when there's a queue of people clutching broken kettles, so there's triage. Some jobs are quick wins, others are politely deemed beyond the scope. The second limitation is modern product design. Some devices are essentially booby-trapped against repair. Batteries are glued in, cases are ultrasonically welded, parts are locked behind software. Volunteers can sometimes improvise, but there are times when you can practically hear the design saying, "Please buy a new one." It's maddening. This is where the wider right to repair movement comes in. Across Europe and beyond, campaigners are pushing for laws that require manufacturers to provide spare parts, repair manuals, and designs that allow products to be opened without destroying them. The EU has introduced rules for certain appliances, and the UK has its own set of regulations, though critics argue they don't go far enough. The philosophy is simple. If you own it, you should be able to fix it, or at least have it fixed at a reasonable cost. That's not anti-business. It's pro-competition. When independent repair shops and community repair spaces can access parts and information, monopolies on repair weaken. Consumers get choice. Waste decreases. Everyone's a bit more sorted. Another question that comes up is safety. Isn't it risky to have amateurs tinkering with electrical appliances? It can be, if it's done carelessly. That's why well-run repair cafes take safety seriously. They often do portable appliance testing. They refuse certain high-risk repairs, and they emphasize learning rather than heroics. The goal isn't to bodge a fix and hope for the best. The goal is to repair responsibly. One of the most charming aspects of repair cafes is the intergenerational exchange. You'll see retired engineers next to students, parents alongside children. Skills that might otherwise vanish are passed on in real time. And because it's informal, it doesn't feel like school. It feels like being let in on a secret. There's also, dare I say, a subtle redefinition of value. In a shop, value is price. At home, value is usefulness. At a repair cafe, value becomes a mix of usefulness, story, and effort. That battered radio matters because it belonged to your granddad. That coat matters because it's the only one that fits properly. That mug matters because it's been with you through every dreary Monday morning. Repair becomes a way of honoring that. If you've never been to a repair cafe, you might be wondering what to bring and how to behave. The etiquette is quite simple. Bring the item, any accessories, and if you can, the manual. Arrive with a bit of patience. Accept that not everything can be fixed, and be prepared to watch, Ask questions and have a go. Most volunteers would rather teach you than perform surgery while you hover silently. It's a shared project. And perhaps most importantly, bring curiosity. Even if the thing can't be repaired, you'll probably learn something. You might discover that the problem was a 1 pound fuse, a frayed cable, or a buildup of lint that made the machine overheat. Or you might learn that the device is fundamentally flawed, designed to fail. Either way, you leave wiser. In a world where so much is abstract and digital, repair is wonderfully tangible. It smells of warm plastic and machine oil. It involves screws, threads, springs, and the occasional muttered, "Where on earth did that bit come from?" It reminds you that the modern world is still built out of physical parts, and physical parts can often be put right. So the next time you're about to chuck something away, you could pause and ask, is it truly dead, or is it merely misunderstood? Could a loose connection be tightened, a seam be stitched, a battery be replaced? Could you, with a bit of help, bring it back to life? Repair cafes won't single-handedly save the planet, but they do something more immediate and, in a way, more human. They create a space where knowledge is shared, waste is questioned, and the default setting of replace is gently challenged. And on a rainy British afternoon, with a cuppa in hand and a resurrected toaster under your arm, that feels quite frankly brilliant. Cheers for listening. If you enjoyed this, try listening again and picking out the idioms and the linking phrases. With practice, you'll start hearing how advanced English hangs together in real speech, and you'll be properly flying.